Am I the asshole for telling my niece I don't want her boyfriend in the house I gave her? I, 30 female, moved out of my hometown and let my niece, 20 female, live in my house. She just had a baby and they needed the space and the house was just sitting there because I haven't gotten it sold yet. She is currently not working because she just had the baby but her boyfriend is. The boyfriend had been telling her he is handling the bills but has been lying and their lights just got turned off. Turns out he never switched the bill to their name from mine but has been telling everyone he did. At this point I know it was foolish to never check and be sure it was switched, but at the time I took him at his word. I can pay the bill, it's not an issue, the issue is the lack of responsibility and the lies. I no longer trust this person, and regardless of if my niece stays with him or not, I don't want him in my house any longer. This is not a tenant-landlord situation, they don't pay me rent, they are just supposed to pay the bills that they incur each month. My niece was unaware because he was lying to her as well, she was just as blindsided by this as I was. I'm willing to let my niece stay there, granted she gets a job and pays the bills. Am I the asshole for wanting to kick him out? The only thing I worry about is that your niece wouldn't have help with the baby. Would you consider giving him a second chance? Put utilities in his name and wait to see if the lights go out. I think you're helping your niece dodge a bullet. Not the asshole. Not the asshole for wanting to, but even if they aren't paying rent to you, he may still be entitled to some tenants' rights depending on the state. How would this work? They have a baby together or a couple. Do you really expect him to stay away or her to keep him away or stopping overnights? It's just not going to happen, and then what when you confirm it? You're practically making your niece lie to you. If this is a one-time instance, stop the services in your name and for your niece's sake, whom you obviously care about, forget the bill and give a second chance with clearly defined rules. If it still doesn't work out, then consider asking both to leave, as just asking your niece to stay isn't likely to actually work out. Be smart here and make a rental agreement with your niece. It might already be too late, because in a lot of places people have renters' rights even if they're not paying rent. So before you ask him to leave, check out the laws that apply and make sure the new arrangement with your niece is based on a contract. If you're going to do this, do it the right way and be the landlord. Niece, baby, boyfriend, or a package deal, so injecting yourself like this and wanting to only kick him out is shitty move when they both should be responsible. And depending on where you live, it might already be a default landlord-tenant situation and you're going to need to go through the legal process of eviction if you want to kick them out. If you're in the US, they are your tenants. Doesn't matter if they pay rent or not. They have established the address as their home. Speak with an attorney and let your niece know what you are planning. Teach your niece finances. Am I the asshole for leaving dinner when being told to? I 19F came home from college for Thanksgiving and had Thanksgiving with my father 49M. This did not occur during Thanksgiving Day. A couple days after we were eating together at the dinner table. My father, who was next to me, was eating with his mouth open and smacking his lips obnoxiously. I took a deep breath because I knew if I hadn't I'd be rude. When something's bothering me I tend to overreact, so I took a second and then asked him, "Dad, could you please chew with your mouth closed? It's bothering me." I made sure to ask in a soft tone so I didn't get misinterpreted as rude. My father then responded, "Fuck off, eat somewhere else if you don't like it." It shocked me for a moment because I really didn't expect him to say that. I then got up, took care of my plate. Then I drove to my mother's house and stayed at her home for the night. Am I the asshole? I really don't think so, but my father's wife said I should have never said anything to begin with. I do think I may have overreacted with leaving his house altogether. Not the asshole, I mean, he did tell you to fuck off and eat somewhere else. Probably didn't expect you to go to another house entirely, but he was a bit too vague with his statement, laughing my ass off. You didn't ask him anything rudely, though. Even took the time to collect yourself before asking him to stop, but he was rude to you in response. You only did what he said. I'd say that's polite and obedient. There is something so egregiously disgusting about sloppy eating, but not nearly as disgusting as a 49-yo father telling his 19-yo daughter to fuck off. Not the asshole, good for you. He was gross and then rude. You are not required to put up with that. Maybe time for LC or even NC for a while till he learns some manners. Not the asshole. Simply Ray to stepmom. I don't need to be verbally abused, so I complied and left the situation. I do not think I was out of line for asking my father to simply chew with his mouth closed like an adult. Not the asshole. What grown-ass adult chews with their mouth open when they can choose not to? Ick. Not the asshole. Asking him to chew with his mouth shut is not a huge or unreasonable request, and even if it was rude, his reaction seems way over the top. All you did was exactly what he told you to do, eat somewhere else. Am I the asshole for not forgiving my sister-in-law when she didn't apologize for something she did? Context. I, 31F, moved to my husband's, 31M, country 4 years ago. None of my family live here, and his family is nearby. I have a good relationship with my mother-in-law and Phil, and my relationship with my husband's siblings, F29 and M25, is usually good. A few weeks ago, it was my 31st birthday. Last year, my brother-in-law, 25M, used my birthday gathering to plan his own birthday party. To avoid a repeat, I decided not to make a big deal out of this year's celebration. I didn't want to spend money on a party, and I didn't want the attention to be diverted again. We decided to celebrate at my in-laws' house because they have more space. We invited my husband's siblings and their partners. They arrived late, around 4:30 p.m., which is typical for this family and not a big deal. Since I live in a foreign country, English isn't the primary language. I know the language, but I find it hard to keep up with many fast conversations at once. Everyone spoke in the local language throughout the evening, which made me feel disconnected and overstimulated. Eventually, I gave up trying to keep up and started scrolling on my phone. The issue began when sister-in-law, 29F, asked if she could show her vacation pictures to everyone. In husband's family, it's common to share vacation photos at gatherings, but the way sister-in-law asked caught me off guard. She asked for my permission in front of everyone, which made me feel obligated to say, yes. I found it rude to show vacation pictures at someone else's birthday celebration. I briefly excused myself to get coffee. When I returned, brother-in-law and his girlfriend asked to see our wedding photos, which they hadn't yet seen. Sister-in-law seemed disappointed, and she and mother-in-law went to the kitchen, where they had a loud conversation that we could all hear from the living room. After viewing the wedding photos, we had dinner, and sister-in-law again pushed for us to look at her vacation pictures. She and her husband spent about an hour going through the pictures, explaining each one in detail. Again, it was in the local language, and I struggled to follow. My husband noticed and told me to put my phone away, which frustrated me further. The last picture they showed was a sonogram and announced their pregnancy. They had many chances to announce this before or after that day, but they chose that moment. I faked a smile, congratulated them, and excused myself to the bathroom. My husband and I left soon after, and he didn't understand why I was upset. In his culture, it's normal to announce major life milestones at other celebrations, but in my culture, it's not. We argued about it for the rest of the night and the next day. An hour later, sister-in-law sent me a text justifying their timing and laughing it off. I responded, saying I was happy for them but hurt by the way they announced it. She later responded, claiming they were hurt by my reaction and that my response had cast a dark shadow over their happiness. She didn't apologize but continued to justify her actions. Am I the asshole for not simply forgiving her and moving on? Edit. Since this doesn't seem to be clear, because I was limited to 3K characters and couldn't elaborate, I do speak the local language. Not fluently by a long shot, but I understand significantly more than I can speak. I can follow a conversation, and I can hold a conversation. What I can't do is follow 4 simultaneous conversations being held all at once, with people shouting across the room towards each other. This is a very common practice for birthdays in this country, the Netherlands. It's called the Ring of Doom. It's the standard layout for birthdays and by default the layout that people gravitate towards. As a foreigner, it makes it incredibly difficult to follow any one given conversation at any one given moment, when there are 3 more being shouted across the room. I think it would be difficult to keep up even in my native language, and especially difficult in a foreign one. Edit 2. A lot of people are coming to the conclusion that I expect a huge milestone like birthday celebration for a non-milestone birthday. I just want to say this isn't the case. I'm honestly more than happy to just not celebrate at all. I don't need presents, I don't like attention, and I don't like the work of organizing events. Birthdays are important to my husband and his family, milestone B-day or otherwise. Every year I am asked for birthday plans and every year I put it off as long as possible. After the events of last year, I really put it off till basically the weekend before, and relented and said we could just do something low-key at husband's parents' house. Before you guys start telling me that nobody forced me to do it, yes, I know, but I did it because it's important to my husband and his family. That's not to say that if I do go ahead and plan something and set time aside for it, that time is meant for someone else to just swoop in and use it as a convenience for themselves. I don't really think that's acceptable. The main issue in all this is that I communicated very clearly to sister-in-law that I was upset by her actions, and rather than any kind of acknowledgement of my feelings, she doubled down, justified all her actions, and then flipped the whole situation around on me and told me how I upset them by casting a dark cloud over their happy news. Not the asshole. Both parties have a responsibility to research and respect cultures and customs. From what you've told us, it sounds like you've done a great job of respecting their customs, even when it is uncomfortable. Where is return of that energy? Why don't they bother to care about your customs at your celebration? It would be one thing if it were your BIL's party, but it was your party. And you didn't ask for much. I'm Dutch and it is definitely not common, considered respectful to announce major happenings during other people's parties. Although perhaps not everyone would consider a low-key, family-only birthday a celebration that they shouldn't hijack. Info. Have you actually voiced any of this to the family? Would it be difficult to ask them to speak English on your birthday? You might want to stop doing birthday gatherings with them for your birthday and do something you can genuinely enjoy. Yeah, I'm Dutch, aka from the Netherlands, and nobody I know would find it okay to spend about an hour looking at another person's pictures, especially at a birthday, and to top it then off with a pregnancy announcement. Announcing a pregnancy at someone else's birthday would be okay-ish, but not like this. And it's also typically Dutch to switch to English when someone struggles to keep up with the speed of the multiple conversations. Not the asshole. Frankly, it sounds as if they'd have been much happier if you didn't even show up. That way they could drink a toast to you as an acknowledgement and then get back to what's really important, themselves. They obviously didn't even think of it as your birthday party, but just a gathering at which you unfortunately were at. Like I say, I think they'd have preferred you not even be there. I can't imagine boring people by taking an hour to show them my vacation photos. If I was subjected to that, my eyes would have glazed over within 15 minutes. And announcing a pregnancy was another sign they didn't think this was a party for you, it was simply a family gathering. Remember, as long as you stay with this man, you will always be dead last in his priorities. Everyone sucks here. They're being rude and not being sure that you're included and engaged in their family discussions. But you are in their country, so it's natural for them to speak their language and follow their customs, and to a large degree it's on you to adapt and make more effort. Playing on your phone at a party for you is rude too. Sounds like you and sister-in-law are both being dramatic. Would I be the asshole if I tell siblings how much I spend on mom? Update: mom wants a new stove for Christmas, and so far 2 siblings agree to chip in instead of buying separate gifts. Using my words sure helps a lot. 5 kids. I'm in the middle and pay 75% of mom's bills. 2 weeks ago, sibling A says, sibling B told me mom's stove is broken. Over Thanksgiving, sibling B told me, you know mom's stove is broken. She needs a new stove. They don't say will you buy a stove or we should buy a stove. They just leave it out there for me to pick up. Would I be the asshole if I gave them an itemized list of what I already pay for, or would that humiliate my mom? An itemized list might be a good start to a conversation about how things have been working, and might work moving forwards. Was there some agreement that you'd pay the majority of the bills? Are you seeking to change that arrangement with your siblings? YWNBTA: if you gave them a list with an intention, a change, that they start paying a share, that communication improve. You can just say mom doesn't have the money so why don't we split it? And if they get crabby, then say, I already pay for a lot of things. Info. What's the money situation here? Anyone would be annoyed by that, but if you wish to help your mother and you are the only person who can, then making this a fight would be pointless if your mother learned about the fight. I don't think providing the exact amount of what you spend on your mom will encourage them to do more. If anything, they might just assume you'll take care of it because you do so much already. Instead, maybe try something like, I can put X amount towards a new stove if you all want to chip in for the rest. Or, I really can't spend anything above what I'm spending already, can you all go in on a new stove? Whether or not it would humiliate your mom I can't answer without knowing her. But I don't think it's the most effective way to make your point. Not the asshole for wanting your siblings to help more. Info. What's the money situation here? Do any of you live with your mother? Have you discussed with your siblings the amount needed to support your mother, or made any agreement about what each can contribute? Why don't you send a group text saying, hey guys, mom's stove is broken and she could use a new one. I found this one that's decent and not too expensive. Everyone's share would be $. Do you think we could have this done for her by insert date here?